Kia ora, my name's Rob Thomas and I'm the volunteer coordinator at Pest Free Kaipatiki. We are currently undertaking interviews with candidates who are standing in the Auckland 2019 Local Government Elections. What is your name?
Kia ora, Rob. My name is Anne-Elise Smithson.
Thanks, Anne-Elise. Appreciate you being here. And what position are you standing for this election?
So I'm standing for re-election under the Sure Action team for the Kaipatiki Local Board.
Great. And do you have a predator trap or a bait station at your property?
Look, I currently live in an apartment complex with no garden.
Uh-huh.
Having said that, when I lived closer to a reserve, I did have a Tim's trap.
Okay.
So I recommend that for anybody living close to
Does your
a
property manager have one?
No.
Oh, right. Well, you can get onto that. Have you downloaded the EcoTrack app and have you ever used that?
Yes, I've downloaded the EcoTrack. It's a great app. I haven't been recording a huge amount, but I would say that my focus on the local board has definitely been supporting the volunteer networks that are helping get rid of pests and predators. I think that's where I can have the biggest impact. As well as participating in weekend bees, getting rid of weeds out of our parks.
So what do you like or dislike about the current state of Kaipatiki's environment?
There's just too many weeds and pests in Kaipatiki. We've got a long way to go before we win the war. What do I love? Well, obviously, I mean, we're blessed to have, over 160 reserves, and I think that really does define our way of life here. It makes Kaipatiki really special.
What do you think is the biggest environmental concern for Kaipatiki, and what actions would you take to resolve it?
I think the biggest environmental concern is the climate crisis. And the best action we can take is protecting our carbon sinks. In other words, the green spaces, parks and reserves that you volunteers are actively involved with. We know that plants and animals are getting more and more stressed due to climate change, so it's crucial that we preserve our habitats and help build resilience in our ecosystems. The other action I really want to mention is the importance of our local parks management plan, and that consultation will be ongoing next term. It's really crucial because it will help council make better decisions for our parks around issues including things like coastal erosion, inundation and sea level rise. Obviously particularly important for areas like Little Shoal Bay.
So what single environmental project have you led or been involved with that's made a big impact in Kaipatiki?
Water quality. So I played a strong role in drawing Auckland Council's focus on the sedimentation issue. For example, I introduced a project to improve compliance at small building sites, and that was particularly around sedimentation issues that we were seeing relating to our urban streams. And we were actually told that the initiation of this project in itself had added prominence to the sedimentation issue, and as a result, Council had improved its compliance processes in that space. I've also introduced a Kaipatiki-wide stream monitoring project which will be in partnership with Remu, and that will be taking place next term. I got the ball rolling for our Kaipatiki Local Parks plan, and also I was the lead on the Kaipatiki Local Board for our input into Auckland Council's submission on the government's clean water package.
Great. Well, it just shows you obviously very passionate on this topic.
Keep going.
So Kaipatiki is really fortunate to have 32% urban tree canopy cover. But every day we hear the chainsaws in our ears. What is it that you would do to maintain or grow the Kaipatiki urban forest canopy?
Right, well look, I mean, first of all, I would really love to see more powers under the RMA in this space. I think that I would always support more tree protection orders. And also, as a local board, I played a role in advocating alongside my teammates for a contribution towards the council's urban canopy strategy. It's called the Ngāhere strategy, which aims to increase the urban canopy cover.
Pest Free Kaipatiki is a community-led initiative, as you know, and our vision is to make Kaipatiki pest free by 2026, very ambitious goal. This will require significant coordination and resources, to remove pest plants, which you've talked about, and predators, and obviously prevent the further spread of disease. Now, if you were elected this coming term, what are the top 3 tangible actions that you would like to support for the 30 plus volunteer groups working in reserves, schools, local street coordinators achieve that goal?
Well, quite simple, just 3 things. Continued support for Pest Free Kaipatiki. I've always advocated for that. Second of all, it's about upgrading our bush tracks, and we managed to secure a large chunk of the Auckland-wide funding, so that will be ongoing. I'll continue to support that. And lastly, look, I've just got make another plug for the local parks plan, because that's going to be a huge focus in that. It does take your input and your knowledge into account to help council make better decisions.
Great. Both community volunteers and council contractors, as you know, undertake ecological restoration projects in reserves. What are your current thoughts on how they coordinate that delivery, and what, if anything, would you like to see change?
Well, I mean, there's definitely been problems in the past, and it's my belief that some of the council contractors undertaking restoration work should always engage with the local environmental groups, because there's a lot of opportunity for our environmental groups to input in that process. I would also hope that through the signing of the MOU between PFK and Auckland Council, that some things might finally improve.
Great. Now listen, we've only got 3 questions left, so we're almost there.
Yeah.
These are big questions.
Okay, I'll try and do fast.
So the first question then is, Auckland Council recently adopted the draft regional pest management plan, and however, many Kaipatiki residents have told us that they don't believe it has sufficient teeth when it comes to enforcing private property owners to remove pest plants from their properties. Now, we also know that seeds from pest plants can travel further than the 500 metre buffer zone that is recommended. That could really adversely affect those significant ecological areas. So, do you agree or disagree that there's sufficient enforcement rules on private properties? Do you agree with the 500 metre buffer zone? And what would you do, if anything, to address some of these issues?
Look, I'll just say that, I mean, it is a huge problem. It's a huge problem, pests and weeds on private properties. I want to just mention that there is currently a review of the Biosecurity Act, and that's currently underway. And that is the legal framework around pest management planning. So that's the mechanism to help improve. I would like to, with consultation with some environmental groups, have some input on that, and I've got some ideas there. I also support, on buffer zones, I support the development of a national policy statement on Indigenous biodiversity, and that would aim to improve protection for our SEAs.
Great. Kauri trees are familiar and beloved in Kaipatiki.
Yeah.
However, they are currently under threat from kauri dieback, as you know.
Yeah.
Some people have asserted that the only way to protect them is really to protect from kauri dieback, is to keep people and animals away from the trees. What's your opinion on this, and what would you do to protect our kauri?
Well, I mean, it's quite simple. Well-formed tracks, they're the answer. And just going back a bit, we can still be close to kauri. It really just comes down to the design of the track. It's really about making sure that we're not stepping over the roots. So look, I mean, we have secured over 40% of the Auckland-wide funding to be spent in Kaipatiki when it comes to protecting kauri in the parks, and we have some huge opportunities in that space in creating well-formed tracks that avoid kauri routes. Basically, we shouldn't be able to hug a kauri, and currently we can, including our iconic ancient kauri in Bayview, and that is just wrong. So we can still be able to see them and be not too far from them, but we shouldn't be able to hug them, that's for sure.
Now, final question,
yeah,
and probably the easiest question, is are there any other environmental sort of initiatives or projects in your manifesto you'd like to tell us about?
Look, there's probably a few that I've forgotten, but I want to point out the business pollution improvement project, which has been a huge success. That has been around educating industry, how they can think more about the impacts on their local waterways and essentially the wider harbour. So we started off in Birkenhead, then we moved to Beach Haven and got such good feedback on that we've now expanded to Wairau. I want to give a little plug to our coastal walkway because that's a shore action policy that does offer an alternative for walking and cycling and all that recreational enjoyment in a space that is free of kauri forest. And I think that's really important if we're going to see so many changes and closures to our current tracks. So we've got that alternative out there. Gosh, there's probably so many more. As always, look, I'll always advocate also for any low carbon transport, better walking and cycling, and I'll always advocate for better public transport because we've got to take the climate crisis seriously.
Well, thank you so much, Anne-Elise, for spending some time with us today. Really appreciate you coming out here, and we wish you all the very best for your election campaign.
Awesome, and thanks for all the work you do. Kia ora.
Kia ora.